World Cup, the game in the Netherlands, even also time relative ball and three ground so we presents you Somerville, Danielle Marlin, and Cody Gakpo. Good evening, Paul. My mic is cutting out. Great start. Is it back now? Hopefully it's not too bad. Anyway, for Japan, they are playing a 3-4-2-1. Zion Suzuki in goal. The back three of Toshoshi Watanabe, Shogo Taniguchi, and Hiroki Ito. Then the right wing is Ritsu Doan. The left wing is Kito Nagamura. Central midfielders are Daichi Kamada and Kaishi Sano. Then Daizamada and Takufusa Kubo behind Ice Ida. It's fixed now. Let's go. It's back. Welcome in, Salid. How are we? I see you there. Let's go. Yes, I'm good. Thanks, you. I'm excited for this one. This could be quite a tight one, in my opinion, because because no one can really predict who's going to win this. Two fairly even sides, I think, in terms of ability. I'm not surprised that Japan going for 3-4-2-1. They're clearly trying to tighten it up with Gakpo and Somerville wider and Reinders and Gravenberch providing a bit more kind of width from the centre. That's good, Celine. That's good. it was good, wasn't it? It was expected though, I think. Yeah, definitely was expected. I can agree with you on that one. So the teams are out around the centre circle for the national anthems. So we started with the Netherlands. So we're about 6 minutes away from kickoff here. Once we've got through all of the random formalities that go on before each of these games now. Who do you have as favourites? As favourites, I think I'd still say the Netherlands are probably favourites with the abilities they have. Gakpo, Reinders, Somerville, Gravenberch, Frankie de Jong in the middle. And they've got a lot of pace up front. A lot of pace up front. Although I wouldn't discount Japan. I think that Doan, Kubo, and Maida have definitely got enough themselves to carry Japan forward. It's just whether they can actually breach that back line, which is incredibly tall, by the way. Van der Ven, Van Dijk, and Van Hecker are all giants. So it'll be interesting to see how that one goes. It's interesting that Van der Ven is playing at left back. Usually he's a centre back, but playing him at left back is an interesting choice. I mean, I don't know who I'd play instead of him at left back, but I think it's a thing with the Dutch side that they do tend to play tall players in fullback areas. Ajax also especially like Denzel Dumfries. I have since I think it's about 2 tournaments back now. I think I've basically listed the whole Dutch side there, apart from Verbruggen, who's also a very good goalkeeper. So it's going to be a very intriguing one to witness. This game, very tightly matched. In the head-to-heads, Japan have never beaten the Netherlands. In the last World Cup meeting between the two sides in 2010, the Netherlands beat Japan 1-0. They have played in a friendly after this in 2013. That was a 2-2 draw. But besides that, it's really only been one other game in a friendly in 2009, which was also a 3-0 win for the Netherlands. So it all points really towards Netherlands win. Netherlands are FIFA ranked 8, whereas Japan are FIFA ranked 18. So if you do have any predictions, do drop them in the comments. I shall get through as many of them as I can. And I'm going to bring you the full match coverage as soon as it kicks off. Oh. Today's referee will be Ismail Elfaf. Paul says 2-0 the Netherlands. That's an interesting prediction. I think it will be close. I think it'll be like a 2-1 or something. I'm still going to go for the Netherlands. To be fair. Although, I still think that Japan will definitely keep it very tight. And it would be very difficult for them to, I think, very difficult for the Dutch to get through that Japanese side. They've got a lot of bodies in there, with a 3 at the back and then 4 straight across. We've got Ismail Afaf from the USA, Corey Parker, and the graphic went way too quick there for me to even read. But the VAR is also from US, Armando Villarreal, Rodolfo Toski, and Thomas. I can't pronounce the Polish guy. That is a hugely long name. But another Pole. A Polish guy is also in VAR. That's all you need to know. Oh. Officials. His virtual plan title over the Netherlands. Oh dear. Well, there's a lot of Premier League players in the Netherlands side, Ashley, and I personally know Ritsu Dewan, Daisen Mada, and Daichi Kamada from the Japanese side. There's a lot there that I don't know either, to be honest. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform. I've heard of Kubo, the guy that is playing alongside Maida. Apparently Hiroki Ito? He plays for Bayern Munich. So again, he'll be fairly decent on that left-hand side of the 3-man defence. Hello, Gore. Hello, Gore. Well, that's intriguing. Oh, I think my oh. Indeed, Celine, indeed. Okay, so my Twitch sound alerts are playing for StreamYard. Okay. Yeah, they're not really going to work, Gore, because we can't really see me. Right, 2 seconds. Whilst I... So I'm just going to wait for... The Netherlands will get us kicked underway, and we are up and underway with Gakpo playing it back to Verbruggen. Okay, the sound that's going to do my head insurance commentary. And it's now with Van Hecker he flicks it up in the air in towards midfield for Reinders. Now it's down to Ueda. Ueda now down towards Maida. Maida charging towards the edge of the box. Still going because it's Dumfries now clears it away as far as Somerville. Somerville now plays it wider to that far side to Gakpo. Gakpo slides it through and it's cleared away by Tagaguchi. Up only as far as Van de Ven. Actually, that was, Van de Ven is pulled over. It's going to be a Dutch free kick, which they take quickly back to Van Dijk. Hello, Violet. Welcome in. It's now with De Jong, and De Jong back to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now wider still to Gakpo. Gakpo now goes back to Van de Ven. Van de Ven now to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk goes further all the way back to Verbruggen. It's now with Van Dijk inside his own half. He plays it across now to Van Hecke. Van Hecke now to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk now sprays it forward towards Somerville, but it's headed away now by Kamada, only as far as De Jong. De Jong. And he covers it and brings it across to the far side and is slowing it down and then plays it back to Van Hecke. Van Hecke now to Dumfries. Dumfries now back inside to Van Hecke. And Van Hecke now over halfway and sprays across to the far side to Gakpo. Gakpo now has to try and get past Delwan, but cuts inside. Now plays it back to De Jong. De Jong now gives it back to Van de Ven. Van de Ven to Gakpo. Gakpo goes all the way back to De Jong. De Jong now across to Van Hecke. Van Hecke and down to this near side to Dumfries. Dumfries now down line to Somerville. Somerville back inside to Van Hecke. Van Hecke now to Somerville. Somerville now to Van Hecke. It's now with Van Dijk and Van Dijk wider to Gakpo. Gakpo cuts inside and slides it into Marlon. Marlon inside the box. Turns. Gets a shot away and a great save by Suzuki. That was a great save down low to his right-hand side from Zion Suzuki. Neither of these two teams, but I want to find it. Let's go, goal. And it's now going to be Reinders with the corner on that far side. And we're just waiting for the referee to finish having a conversation with the players in the box there for pushing. And it's now going to be Reinders on that far side to whip this corner in. Whips it into the near post and it's headed out by Ito. And it's got all the way out of play for a throw on that far side, which the Netherlands will take in just a second. We're going to see this strike again from Marlon, which was saved down low by Suzuki. Was a good save indeed. It's now with Van de Ven to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now, all the way across this near side to Dumfries. Dumfries now goes back to Van Hecke. And Van Hecke now forward to De Jong. And De Jong now gives it down the line to Dumfries. Somerville around the corner to Dumfries. Dumfries cuts inside and gives it to Marlon. Marlon slides it just too far in front of Somerville and it goes out for a goal kick to Japan. It is indeed, Ashley. It is indeed. Hence the time zones and random kickoff times. And Suzuki clears long. And it's going to go all the way up and head and flicked back by Van Hecke to Verbruggen. Verbruggen now out to Van Dijk. Van Dijk carries the ball forward and then slides it across to Dumfries. Dumfries now inside to Van Hecke. Van Hecke now across to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk now has it and he's going to slow it down again and slide it across to Dumfries. Dumfries now around the corner to Somerville. Somerville fell forward to Gravenberch. And it's won back there by Nakamura. Nakamura inside now to Kubo. Kubo down to this near side now to the number 15 for Japan, Kamada. And it's gone all the way out for a throw off of Mickey van der Ven. Decent slide around the corner there. Actually, it's going to be a free kick. By the looks of things, for a foul by Van de Ven on the number 13, Nakamura. Either Argentina or Spain for me, Ashley, I think. And Kamada and Kubo are over this free kick. On this near side, the Japanese left. Personally, I think Nakamura will take this and swing it as an in-swinger. Kamada whips it in towards the back post and it's flicked down towards Maida, and he couldn't quite get it towards goal in the end, and it's going to go out for a goal kick. Ads on Switch, yeah. You'll get that. If you are new here, don't forget to drop a follow, and if you're on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and also drop a comment and say hello if you are in that chat. It's flicked up now towards Gakpo, and it's now out of play for a throw to Japan. Off from Gakpo there. And number 16 there, Watanabe throws it into the middle towards Kubo, who goes down. And it's going to be another free kick to Japan. And it's taken quickly and it's now inside to Kamada, to Sano. And then Sano looks up and plays it across to Ito. Ito now down the line, looking towards Doan. That's Daizen Mada. Mada into the middle, and it's cleared away there by Van Dijk. It's now wide against his near side to Nakamura. Nakamura leaves the ball but then goes back and gets it and gives it to Ito. Ito now inside to Sano. Sano dinks the ball out towards that far side, but no one had made the run. They wouldn't even got there if they had. Poor ball there from Kamada. And it's going to be a goal kick to Holland. Hello again, Paul. It's now with Van Dijk. Van Dijk to Verbruggen. Verbruggen now clears the ball long upfield and flipped on there by Gakpo. Taken down by Tagaguchi. And it's gone out of play for another throw to the Dutch. And it's gone back now to Van Dijk. Van Dijk carries it forward and now plays it wider to Van de Ven. Van de Ven now to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk inside to De Jong. De Jong now turns it to this near side to Dumfries. Dumfries inside to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now to De Jong. And De Jong carries the ball over halfway and then turns back inside his own half and plays, and he's still carrying it actually into the centre and then plays it to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now across to Van de Ven. Van de Ven to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now across to this near side to Somerville. Somerville now plays it back to Van Hecker. Van Hecker squares it across to that far side. And it's flicked away by Doan and out for another Netherlands throw. It's now gone back to Van Dijk to Van Hecker. Van Hecker carries the ball forward into the Japan half and gives it back to Van Dijk, and then goes all the way around the corner to Dumfries and back to Van Hecker. Van Hecker across to Van Dijk. Van Dijk then sprays the ball out to that far side, looking for the run of Gakpo. Again, too much on that. And it's going to be a Japanese goal kick. Japan have had a lot of possession so far, not really created much from it. Japan is struggling to really get into the game, but I think they'll be happy they've got through the first 10 minutes unscathed here. And Ito stands over the ball and plays it back to Suzuki. And now Suzuki, they have to retake that again. Because the referee wasn't ready. So Ito plays it to Suzuki again, and he now launches it forward into the middle, and it's gone straight to Van Dijk, who heads forward and out towards Somerville, but Ito now down the line to Nakamura, and it's now Kamada to Nakamura. Nakamura plays it out to that far side to Ritsu Doan. Doan carries the ball over halfway. It's still going now. It gives it back to Watanabe, inside to Kamada. It's now to Nakamura. And now White's this side to Ito, and Ito to Nakamura. Now back inside to Sano. Now tries to get it inside, but it's now with Maida. There's a Maida, can't quite get past Van Hecker, so it's now back with Nakamura. Now back to the number 15, Kamada. It's now with the number 24, Sano. Sano to Watanabe. It's now with Kubo to Doan into the box. It's cleared away by Van Dijk. Van Dijk clears it away, and it's going to be played all the way back by Tamaguchi to Suzuki. Suzuki now to Taniguchi, and Taniguchi to number 15, Daichi Kamada. Slowly brings us over halfway and then plays it to Ito. Ito now to Nakamura to Ito. Ito inside to Kamada. Now gives it down the near side to Nakamura. Nakamura further inside to Maida, who flicks it towards Ueda. Can't quite get there. And De Jong now to Gravenberch further across to Gakpo. Sorry, I was Reinders to Gakpo. And it's now back all the way to Suzuki. Suzuki now into Sano, and Sano to Kamada. Thank you for the sound alert. It's now with Taniguchi, and Taniguchi to Sano, and Sano to the number 16 there for Japan, Watanabe. It's now Ito to Maida. Now to Ito to Kamada over the top, looking towards Maida. Maida now hits it against Denzel Dumfries, and out for the first Japanese corner. Confidence, yeah, you can see the shirts to tell who it is. They're so small. A lot of it's down to positional play, actually, to be honest. And then numbers quite easy to see on the Japanese with them being white on blue. So I know the majority of the Netherlands side anyway. The corner is going to be taken by Kamada, and he's swung in towards the back post, and it's headed out by Van de Ven. It's now with Nakamura down the line to Kamada. Now to Nakamura on this near side. Slides it across now to Kubo. Round the corner. Ito's plays it across, and it can't quite get past the slide there of Maida. He's claiming corner. It looks like it's going to be a goal kick. Good interplay there between the Japanese, Kubo and Nakamura. It's put across there by the number 3. Actually, that was Taniguchi. And in the end, it couldn't quite get past the slider of Van Hecker. So it's going to be a goal kick, which Van Dijk clears long up towards Gakpo. Can't quite get there. In the end, I think it's actually put out by Doan. And Van de Ven is going to take a throw, and he throws it back to Van Dijk. And Virgil van Dijk now carries it forward and plays it to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now. And he plays it across to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk now to Van Hecker. And Van Hecker plays it across to Van Dijk. And now he goes to Van de Ven. He plays it to Gakpo. And it's now back with Van Dijk again here. He plays it inside to De Jong. De Jong back to Van Hecker, and Van Hecker across against Van Dijk. Van Dijk now wide to Van de Ven, and he played it around the corner to Gakpo, but good press there from Japan. Does go out for another throw to the Netherlands. That was corner. Dashable. Yeah, it probably was. Van Hecker now plays it into De Jong. De Jong now across to Van de Ven. And Van de Ven inside to De Jong. De Jong now to Gravenberch. And Gravenberch towards Ryan. Can't quite get there. It's intercepted by Sano. And it's now gone back to Van Dijk, who plays it to Somerville. Crescencio Somerville. Jinking past Maida and still going and plays it around the corner for the run of Dumfries, but it's cleared away there by Hiroki Ito. It's going to go out for Netherlands throw, which Somerville takes quickly back to Van Hekke. And Van Hekke now across to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk further to De Jong and then back to Van Dijk. Van Dijk. It's now with Somerville. Somerville goes back to Van Hekke. And Van Hekke to Van Dijk. Van Dijk forward now to Reinders and back to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk to Van Hekke. Van Hekke to Van Dijk. And now to Van der Ven. Van der Ven turns and gives it back to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk now can't quite get it through to Gakpo because it's been intercepted by Kubo. So it's thrown back in now by Van der Ven to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk now to De Jong. De Jong plays it to the near side to Dumfries. Dumfries charging forward. He plays it wider to Somerville. Somerville towards the edge of the box. Manages to get round Nakamura, but it's headed out there by Watanabe to Kubo. And Kubo now clears it long up towards Dyson Maida. Maida can't quite. Actually, that might be Derwan on that far side. And it's going to go out for a Japanese throw anyway. And it's thrown back now to Watanabe, and Watanabe into Taniguchi. Taniguchi to Ito. Ito slides it across to Nakamura. And Nakamura back to Ito. Ito further across now to Taniguchi. Taniguchi. He plays it a short pass now to Watanabe. That's Kamada, sorry. And Kamada to Taniguchi. Taniguchi across to Dewan. Dewan plays it round the corner inside towards Ueda. Now can't quite get it round the corner. Got intercepted by Van der Ven. And now it's inside to Gravenberch. Gravenberch. He's charging forward. Now plays it to Marlin. Donyell Marlin. Further forward now to Gakpo. Cody Gakpo. Cuts inside and gives it back to Marlin. Marlin into the box and it's cleared away by Watanabe. Only as far as Van Hekke. Van Hekke now back across to Dumfries. Dumfries inside to De Jong. De Jong now gives it back to Van Hekke. And Van Hekke carries the ball forward. And looks up and plays it to Van der Ven. Van der Ven to De Jong. De Jong now. And he plays it, or no, he carries it still and plays it inside to Reinders. Reinders now to Van Hekke. Van Hekke to De Jong. De Jong turns. Looks up. And then plays it wider to Gakpo. Gakpo now plays it back to De Jong. And De Jong inside to Reinders. Reinders to Gakpo. That's probably Gravenberch now back to Van Hekke. Van Hekke to Somerville. Somerville now to Van Hekke. And Van Hekke to De Jong. De Jong now gives it wider to Gakpo. Cody Gakpo towards the edge of the box and slides it around the corner. Gets it back now, does Gakpo, but it's intercepted there. Firstly by the number 16, Watanabe, and then by Kubo. Van der Ven throws it in quickly now to to Reinders, and then he gets it back again to Reinders. He plays it now to De Jong, and De Jong to Somerville. Somerville gives it back to Van Hekke. Van Hekke now to Van Dijk. Van Dijk plays it forward to Van der Ven, and Van der Ven to Gakpo. Gakpo now inside to Reinders. Reinders now plays it inside, well, back to Van Hekke. Van Hekke to De Jong. Gives it back now to Van Hekke and plays it across to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now across to Gakpo. Gakpo cuts back and then plays it all the way back to Van der Ven. Van der Ven further back to Van Dijk. Van Dijk across to Van Hekke. And Van Hekke now to Somerville. Somerville battling away there with Nakamura. And in the end, it's judged that Nakamura fouls Somerville. And Van Hekke takes the free kick quickly and gives it to De Jong. De Jong to Reinders. Reinders inside to Gravenberch. It's now wider to Van der Ven. Van der Ven to Gakpo. Back to Van der Ven. They have, to be fair, Celine. They've had a lot of possession so far. Van Hecke now plays it through the gap towards Reinders, and it's flicked out towards Gakpo. It's cleared away by Ritsu Doan. And now Kubo's chasing after it, but Van der Ven has it and plays it back to Verbruggen. Verbruggen now out to Van Hecke. And Van Hecke plays it to Van Dijk. Van Dijk comes up towards halfway and plays it now to Gakpo. Gakpo goes round Doan. Can't quite get there now. Doan's coming forward the other way. Ritsu Doan now plays it back to Watanabe. Kamada's screaming for it in the middle of the park, but it goes instead to Taniguchi. And now to Kamada. Kamada coming forward the other way and gives it now to Ito. Ito inside further now to Nakamura. Nakamura to Kamada. Kamada still has it, and it's coming up towards the centre circle and plays it now to Taniguchi. Taniguchi to Watanabe. Watanabe to Doan. Doan flicks it round the corner and further forward to Kubo. And that's reached the first hydration break of the first half. The Netherlands have looked okay so far. They've done nothing kind of special. They're struggling to get through that kind of heavily structured Japanese lineup of Watanabe, Taniguchi, and Ito, and then Sano and Kamada just in front. But the pace that they've got, they're not really being able to break through the gap. Doesn't sound like they're being very aggressive yet. No, they're struggling to really break through, and I think it's proven to be a bit of a cagey stalemate. Gotta get those commercials in. Behave, Paul. Since they've gone over to Canada, Mexico, and the US for this World Cup, because it's hugely humid and hot, they've added in hydration breaks, and as Paul says, got to get those commercials in. I don't know if it's about reserving energy, Celine. I think it's more they're just struggling to get through the kind of 3 and then 4, the 7 just in front. And it's really, I think, because of the way that it's structured, they're blocking up all the gaps and they can't quite get in between. I'd like to see Gakpo and Somerville have a few more runs at the Japanese defence, because at the moment it's being passed around, and mainly between Van Dijk, De Jong, and Van Hecke, they've had quite a lot of the ball. I'd like to see them get a bit wider and try to put a bit more pressure in behind with some quicker passing. That'll probably break them down a bit more. But I mean, there's that chance for Daniel Marlon that was down low to Suzuki's right. That's probably the only chance we've had so far in this first 24 minutes. So I'd like to see them move it a bit faster, and then it might open up Japan. But on the other side, Japan have shown that they can get down the Dutch right. I'd like to see a bit more from Doan and Kubo as a combination. Nakamura and Maida look like they can get a bit down that left, that Dutch right, linking up with Kamada. But again, I think they need to move it quicker as well. I think basically the possession's a bit pedestrian so far. I'd like to see a bit more quicker passing and quicker movement. Not seen anything yet of Ueda up top for Japan, so I'm not exactly sure what he's about yet. But again, the quick from Gakpo, Marlon, and Somerville, you'd expect that they were going to get a bit more joy than they've actually had so far. The play's going to restart here with a Japanese throw, which Ritsu Doan is going to take. Nearly near enough in line with the Netherlands penalty area. And Doan throws it in now to Sano and gets it back, does Doan, on that far side, and slides it around the corner. And he can't quite get it back there. And now you can charge it forward by Gakpo inside to Marlon. Marlon. And it's fallen back by Sano. And now De Jong sees it out to play for another Japanese throw on that far side. And Doan plays it back to Watanabe. Watanabe now plays it all the way across to the near side to Hiroki Ito. Ito now to Nakamura, who plays a great ball down the line to Daisen Maeda. Maeda has got to try and beat Van Hecker. Still going as Maeda. Now plays it back inside to Kamada. Kamada dinks it towards the back post towards Doan, and it's headed away there by Van de Ven, only as far as Daichi Kamada. And Kamada now slows it down and comes strolling forward. It's a walking pace here. He's looking for a runner, but there's no runs off the ball. The Japanese need to start moving. It's now gone back to Taniguchi, and he goes out to Doan. Doan, he goes back to Watanabe. It's now inside to Sano, and Sano across to Kamada. Kamada, he gives it back into Ito. Ito now down the line to Nakamura. Nakamura, got to try and get past Dumfries. Cuts inside. And still going, gives it back now to Ito. And Ito down the line. And is now whipped into the box and headed out by Van Hecker. It's now to Kamada. Kamada to Kubo. That's Sano. It's now with Doan. Doan plays it inside towards Ueda. It's now come down to Kubo, and it's smashed over the bar there by the number 21, Hiroki Ito. Decent chance there, and if Ito didn't get under the ball, he might have had a better chance at having a shot on goal there. But in the end, he got way underneath it and it went flying into the Netherlands crowd. And Verbruggen now clears long up towards Gakpo, and Gakpo flicks on towards Marlon, but is headed now down by Taniguchi to Sano, and Sano gives it away to De Jong. De Jong. Now to Van de Ven. Van de Ven to De Jong. And De Jong now back to Van Hecker. And Van Hecker plays it forward to Reinders. Reinders now goes back to Van de Ven. Van de Ven. He plays it back to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk now inside the Japanese half, and he gives it out to Gakpo. Gakpo cuts back and now plays it to Van de Ven. Van de Ven now to Van Dijk. Van Dijk, and he gives it wider to Van de Ven, and Van de Ven to Reinders, back to Van de Ven, who goes around the corner and pulls it back, and it's cleared out by Ito, and it's now gone all the way back to Van Hecker. Van Hecker, now to Somerville. Somerville does a few step overs and gives it back to Van Hecker. Van Hecker back to Somerville. Now turns to go back towards the right-hand side to Dumfries. Dumfries goes back inside to Somerville. Somerville now to Van Hecker. And Van Hecker now to De Jong. De Jong now plays it wider to Gakpo. Gakpo. He's got two to try and get through, so he slides it back inside to Reinders. Reinders dinks it over the top and headed out there by Nakamura, and then Kamada further clear, but it's now with Van Hecker to De Jong. De Jong now plays it out to that far side to Gakpo. Gakpo, again, trying to get past Doan, but he cuts inside, and then dinks the ball towards the back post to Somerville, who heads it just over. Actually, that was Denzel Dumfries that heads that one over. In the end, wants to really head that back towards the penalty spot, and he was trying to go towards the goal. Wasn't really got the direction on it, and in the end, it's gone behind for a Japanese goal kick. Which Suzuki cleared long, but it's now with Van Hecker. Van Hecker to Marlon. Marlon goes charging forward and turns it back. Well, actually, he's still got it, and then plays a simple pass across to De Jong. De Jong now to Van Hecker. Van Hecker tries to go wider, but it's intercepted by Reinders to De Jong. Actually hit the referee, so he gives the ball back to Frankie De Jong. And it's now with Van Hecker. Van Hecker now goes wider to Somerville. Somerville now goes back to Dumfries. And Dumfries now across to Van Hecker, and Van Hecker to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now wider to Van de Ven, and Van de Ven to Gakpo, and he goes back to Van de Ven and inside to De Jong. De Jong now to Dumfries on this near side. He gives it back to Van Hecker. Van Hecker to Van Dijk. Van Dijk looks up and plays it now across to Gravenberch. Gravenberch, who turns it across to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now across to Gakpo. Not enough on that really, but it's gone out for a Japanese throw. We basically deceived Gakpo over there. Wasn't kind of enough direction on it. So Japan get the throw, which Watanabe is going to take. Japanese manager's making some notes there. And it's intercepted again by Kamada, who plays it all with, well, tries to give it out to that far side, but Van Dijk claims it. And Van Dijk now to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now plays it forward to Reinders. Reinders turns and plays it to Gakpo. Gakpo on that far side now whips the ball in, and it's headed out by Taniguchi. It's down with De Jong. De Jong to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now to Dumfries. Dumfries wider to Somerville. Somerville back inside to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now across to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now wider to Gakpo. Gakpo cuts inside. And he's going to carry this backwards. And slows it down and plays it now to Van Dijk. Van Dijk inside to De Jong. De Jong now gives it inside to Somerville. Somerville across to Dumfries. Dumfries now plays it round the corner towards Marlon, but it's intercepted by Kamada. Kamada turns, and it's given away there by Maida. It's now with Marlon, and he can't get past Taniguchi, who had to get back there to Taniguchi, and it's going to go out for a Netherlands corner. Silly bit of play there with Kamada and Maida getting in the way of each other. Good run by Maida, and in the end it was a good interception by Taniguchi that needed to happen. Reinders is over the corner. And the Netherlands have put most players on the edge of the box ready to make a run. But Reinders is still waiting to take this corner. Puts his arm up and then whips this into the box. And it's headed down by Van de Ven and had to be cleared away there by Taniguchi. But the ball's whipped in again by Reinders and then headed over by Van de Ven. The initial save was a good save by Suzuki. Probably should have claimed. Let's have a look at this again. Headed down by Marlon. Blocked by Suzuki. And then Taniguchi had to get the ball cleared. And then it was a poor header in the end by Van de Ven over the bar. But the goal kick's taken by Ito to Suzuki, and Suzuki now to Watanabe, who plays it inside, looking towards Sano. Can't quite get there. Actually, it was towards Ueda, sorry, and it's now with De Jong. De Jong carries it into midfield and plays it now down the line to Dumfries. Dumfries turns and plays it back now to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now to Van Dijk. Van Dijk. He now plays it forward to Reinders. And Reinders carries it forward and plays it across now to Dumfries. And Dumfries back to Gravenberch. Gravenberch. There's a bit more movement now as Somerville tries to go round Nakamura. It's handball against the Japanese. And it's good Japanese wing back. And it's going to be a free kick for the Netherlands, which is going to be taken by Tijani Reinders. Reinders is going to get ready to swing this one in from the Dutch right. He's got Somerville next to him as Reinders. Getting it, puts his arm up and then whips us into the box towards the back post. It's flicked down and then it's absolutely skied by Cody Gakpo. That's one. You're in the wrong sport for that one, Gakpo. That was absolutely skied over the bar. As Reinders whips us in, it's flicked back down. And then I think he slips in fairness, but it just went miles over the bar. And again, another chance goes begging for the Netherlands. Watanabe is currently down tying his laces. So we're going to get a bit of another short delay whilst he does that before this goal kick is taken. Number 16 for Japan. An excitable Dutch crowd there, and some very stern faces from the Japanese fans in the crowd as Suzuki gets ready to take this goal kick long, downfield, up towards Doan. It's flicked on and out of play for a Netherlands throw on that far side. I'm still not seeing much movement from either side so far. It's really going to challenge the defences in this first half as Van de Ven gets ready now to take this throw. And he launches it inside to Gakpo. And again, it's gone out for another Netherlands throw, which Van de Ven is going to take back to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk now carries this one forward and gives it to De Jong. De Jong. Inside to Van Dijk. Van Dijk to Van Hecker. Van Hecker. Back to Van Dijk. It's now with De Jong. De Jong. He gives it wider to Van de Ven. Van de Ven back inside to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now sprays the ball out to this near side to Somerville. Good takedown by Somerville. He's got to try and get past Nakamura. Cuts inside to Somerville and turns again the other way and cuts back. Good feet from Somerville. Inside now towards Dumfries. And it's cleared away by Ito all the way towards Verbruggen. Verbruggen now out to Van Dijk. Van Dijk across to Van Hecker. Van Hecker. He now gives it down the line to Dumfries. Dumfries, that's Gravenberch now. Back inside to Van Hecker. Van Hecker to Van Dijk. Van Dijk. Now across to Van Hecker. Again, it's too slow with the movement here. It's now with Van Dijk, who turns and goes all the way back to Verbruggen. And the Japanese have basically shoved the Dutch back into their own half. And now Van Dijk to De Jong. De Jong to Van Hecker. Back to Verbruggen. Verbruggen now to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now gives it inside to Reinders. Reinders brings it across to this near side to Dumfries. Dumfries can't quite get past Kubo. And it's gone out for a Netherlands throw. It's now with Van Hecker. Van Hecker inside to De Jong. De Jong to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now down the line to Van de Ven. Van de Ven further down the line to Gakpo. Gakpo brings us back and plays now down the line to Van de Ven. And Van de Ven to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now to De Jong and De Jong to Dumfries. Dumfries carries the ball forward and is blocked there by Dyson Maida and gone out of play for another Netherlands throw, which Denzel Dumfries gets ready to take and plays it down to Van Hecker and Van Hecker across to Van Dijk. Van Dijk looks up and now plays it to Van Hecker and Van Hecker wider to Somerville. Somerville to Dumfries, now back inside to Somerville and further inside to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now to Van Dijk. Van Dijk to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now wider to Dumfries. Dumfries now back inside to Van Hecker. Van Hecker and across to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now across to Gakpo. Gakpo inside to Van de Ven. Van de Ven now gives it back to Van Dijk. To Reinders. Reinders turns and gives it back to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now inside to Gravenberch. Gravenberch turns, gives it back to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now gives it inside further to De Jong, and De Jong now gives it back to Van Dijk. Van Dijk inside looking towards Gravenberch, but is intercepted there by Kubo. It is now forward to Maida. Maida to Nakamura. Nakamura down this near side. Gets past Somerville. Still going towards the corner. Whips it across And in the end, it's going to go out to play for a goal kick. Poor cross from Nakamura. Decent little break there for Japan, but they couldn't quite get the final ball right. And it's now going to be with Van Dijk. Van Dijk to Verbruggen. Verbruggen clears this long upfield towards Gakpo, who heads it down only as far as Taniguchi, and Taniguchi gives it back now to Suzuki. Suzuki inside to Kamada. Kamada. He now plays it across to Taniguchi. Taniguchi now across to Kamada. Kamada. Strolling forward at walking pace. Now plays it inside to Sane. Back to Kamada. Kamada. Now to Ito. Ito. Now inside to Daichi Kamada. Kamada. Still strolling forward. Now goes into a jog and plays it across to Taniguchi. Taniguchi. Bit more pace now out to Doan. Doan. Now gives it back to Taniguchi. And Taniguchi now inside to Kamada. Kamada wider against Taniguchi. Taniguchi. Now back inside to Kamada. Kamada turns it back to Taniguchi. And now wider to far side to the number 8 Kubo. Takefusa Kubo now to Kamada. Kamada now gives it across to Sano. Sano gets it back. Pulls the ball across. And that goes all the way down to Nakamura. Shot just past the near post. That's the first real chance for Japan. That shot really did go back across goal, really didn't try to go into the near post. I think the ball actually was across from Ida to Nakamura. And Nakamura trying to go to that near post and actually hits the water bottles at the side of the goal. But decent move there for Japan. If they could do that a bit more, they can definitely get around this Dutch defence. I'm been impressed so far with Nakamura. Verbruggen clears long up towards Van de Ven, but now it's back with Doan and now to play for a Japanese throw. And he throws it back to Watanabe. Watanabe across to Taniguchi. Taniguchi now brings the ball forward and he plays it inside to Sano. Sano into Kamada. Kamada. He should have hit the target indeed, Paul, I agree. And Kamada. And there's a player down in the middle here for Japan. And there's a collision with De Jong. I think it's Sano who's gone down. There in the middle of the park. Actually, it was Kubo that went down in the middle of the park there. And it's now with Kamada. Kamada. Good ball through towards Ueda. Shot into the side netting. Another decent chance there for Japan. They've had 2 in the past couple of minutes. That was a decent ball through from Kamada into Ueda. And in the end, it was shot just again to the near post. There's something about these Japanese players going towards the near post when the majority of the goal is beckoning for them across. Again, the shot across goal would have been a better option there. And it's now with Verbruggen. Verbruggen. Now to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk to Van de Ven. And Van de Ven back to Van Dijk. Van Dijk brings the ball forward and plays it now to De Jong. De Jong turns and gives it wider to Van de Ven. Van de Ven to De Jong. De Jong now carries the ball forward and he's getting pressured there by Ueda and Kubo. We're going to get 3 minutes of added time at the end of this first half. There we go. And it's now with Watanabe with the throw. And in the end, it's actually going to have to go backwards to claim the ball that's already on the field. I thought we'd try to reduce delays from throws. That was heavily delayed, like. Anyway. Watanabe launched the ball in towards Kubo, who brings it down and goes down with nothing doing. It's now with Reinders to Somerville, who goes down. Free kick to the Netherlands. which has been taken quickly by Reinders to Gravenberch. It's now with Gakpo. Gakpo back to Gravenberch. Now to Van de Ven. Van de Ven to Marlin. Donyell Marlin. Wide. Whips the ball in. Headed out by Taniguchi. It's now with De Jong. And De Jong gives it down the near side to Somerville. Somerville cuts inside. Still going to Somerville. And it's now with Van Dijk. Van Dijk goes wider to Gakpo. Gakpo now gives it back to Van de Ven, and Van de Ven to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now to De Jong. De Jong to Van Hecker. Van Hecker wider now to Dumfries. Dumfries now to Somerville. Somerville now to Van Hecker. Good play by Van Hecker, and hits it off of Nakamura, and it's going to go out for a corner for the Netherlands. And the referee's now having a word with Ito as Reinders comes across to this near side to take this corner. I think the referee is nearly satisfied. He's now having a word with Van Hecker and Maida. And still we wait for this corner to come in from Tijani Reinders. And still we wait. Now his arm goes up in the air. Whips it into the box and it's flicked on and easily claimed by Zion Suzuki. And Suzuki now balls this out to Ito. Ito now further down the line to Nakamura. Nakamura. And that's it for the first half. The Netherlands 0, Japan 0. And to be honest, it was more about possession than it was about creating any clear-cut chances. We had the Donyell Marlin one in just before the hydration break. Then there was the Nagamura one and Ueda in the second half, which were both past the near post. But apart from that, there really wasn't too much in terms of clear-cut chances. It's more been possession and trying to move the opposition around with not too much in terms of quick play or running at pace. I expect there to be improvements in the second half, but we shall see what occurs in the second half. But for now, I'm going to take a quick 10-minute break, and I shall see you all for the second half. Okay, so welcome back here in Dallas for the second half of the Netherlands versus Japan. It'll be Japan who are going to get us kicked off very, very shortly. It doesn't look like there's going to be any changes in the second half, thankfully. So it looks like it's going to be Sano who's going to get us underway in just a moment. And we are back underway for the second half here. Let's hope that it is a bit more exciting than the first half, as Suzuki has cleared that long and it's now brought down by Ito, and Ito wider to Nagamura, and Nagamura gives it further because he goes down, but it's gone back to Verbruggen, and Verbruggen now clears long, and Sano heads forward, but then De Jong wins it. He gives it to Reinders. Reinders now to Gakpo. Gakpo through the middle towards Somerville. Somerville charging towards the edge of the box. Slides it across. And good block there by Watanabe. He had to get there. Let's come down to Reinders on this near side. It's now with Van de Ven to De Jong. De Jong. Now to Van Hecker. Van Hecker inside to Gravenberch. Gravenberch slides it around the corner and couldn't quite get it through in the end. And it's gone back to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now to De Jong. De Jong round the corner to Somerville. Somerville turns and slides it round the corner again. Now to Dumfries. Dumfries now back now inside to De Jong. It's intercepted there by Sano. Sano goes round and in the end runs it straight out of play. And the Netherlands are going to have a throw on that far side. Decent start from the Netherlands here. They're really charging after this one. Early in the second half, as Van Dijk now gives it down this near side to Gakpo, and Gakpo cuts inside and now plays it back inside to De Jong. De Jong now to Van Hecker, inside now to Gravenberch. Gravenberch wider to Somerville. Somerville gives it around the corner to Gravenberch. Pulls it across, and it's a bit too straight. And in the end, it's gone out for a throw on this near side. But they get a decent idea here from the Netherlands. They're getting it out to Somerville, working the quick passes round. And that was pulled across, and no one really could gamble on that one. And it was seen out there. But Japan are looking a bit open so far. But Watanabe now throws it inside to Ueda. You can't get past Van Dijk, and it's going to be a throw for Japan, which Doan is going to take just inside the Netherlands half, and he throws it back now to Watanabe, and Watanabe further inside to Taniguchi. Taniguchi now across to Ito. Ito dinks it down the line, looking now out towards Nagamura, who heads inside, but actually is out of play. So Van Hecker is going to leave the throw for Denzel Dumfries. Pass on the far side. Who's going to take this throw now and launches it inside to Somerville, who flicks on towards Marlin. Can't quite get past Sano. Now Dumfries heads back inside, and Sano again gets there first. It's now gone out for a Japanese throw. Must have flicked off of Reinders there and gone out of play for a Japan throw, which Sano is going to take. I think Ito is going to take, and it's now inside to Sano and back to Ito. Ito down the line, and it's got all the way through to Verbruggen. So again, the final end product is not quite there, but Van Hecker now inside to De Jong. De Jong now to Gravenberch. Gravenberch now to De Jong. De Jong to Van Dijk. Van Dijk carries it forward, now plays it wider to Gakpo. Gakpo having a run at Doan. Still going as Gakpo. Tries to go round Doan, but Doan has fouled Gakpo, and there's going to be a free kick here for the Netherlands. I think a couple of yards from where Japan had their free kick in the first half. Doan just blocks off Gakpo in the end and commits the foul. Reinders to take on this their side. Let's see if they can make use of this set piece, the Netherlands. Reinders take from the near side when the referee is ready. He's currently having a word with the players in the box again. But Reinders gets ready to take this from the near side. The Dutch left, whips it in, and it's gone straight to the head of Doan. It's now with De Jong. De Jong round the corner to Gravenberch. Gravenberch now whips the ball in. Everyone stayed up. And Van Dijk has headed it in off the post. Van Dijk has scored for the Netherlands. That was a really strange header. It looked like it was going to go wide. But Virgil van Dijk has scored for the Netherlands. He flicks it towards the back post and it bounces in off the post and across the goal line and in. That was one of the most strangest headers I've witnessed because it kind of flicks off the side of his head and bounces off the post. I thought it was going wide. But what a header from Van Dijk. And the Netherlands are now 1-0 up against Japan. Good ball in, heads it. Yeah, it takes a huge bounce off the post. It comes right off his... Let's go, actually. It goes right into the post and then bounces in. Van Dijk is the difference so far here in Dallas. Virgil van Dijk heads the Netherlands into a 1-0 lead inside 51 minutes. Wow. We have our first goal of the evening. As we're still awaiting Japan to get us underway here. Now seeing a replay again of this goal. So Gravenberch was in. I don't know why they're showing us this offside graphic. It's clearly onside. They do love to show you graphics for no real purpose here, don't they? They wouldn't show you the graphic of the one that was important yesterday between Qatar and Switzerland, but they'll show you every single one since then that is correct. Anyway, Verbruggen has it now inside his own penalty area and is slowing it right down. He's just strolling and just tapping the ball forward and now gives it wider to Van de Ven. Van de Ven now to Gakpo. Gakpo round the corner, it gives it away to Sarno, who then gives it back away to Gakpo. Gakpo to Van de Ven. Van de Ven charges into the middle of the park and then gives it across to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now gives it wider to Dumfries. Denzel Dumfries now plays it wider to Somerville. Somerville back inside to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now to De Jong. De Jong now across to Van Dijk, the goal scorer. Van Dijk now to Van Hecker. Van Hecker brings it forward and then plays it back to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now plays it back across to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now plays it through the gap, but goes all the way through to Zion Suzuki. And Suzuki now taps this, and that was the 13th goal for the Netherlands and his 93rd appearance for Virgil van Dijk. As Suzuki now gives it to Ito. Ito now to Kamada. Kamada plays it inside, but it's given away to, I think that's to Van Dijk, and it's gone round the corner towards Gravenberch, and now to play for a throw here on their side for Japan. Actually, no, it's for the Netherlands, which Van de Ven takes back to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now across to De Jong. De Jong now gives it across to Dumfries on that far side. Now gives it back to Somerville. It's now with Van Hecker. Van Hecker now to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now across to Van de Ven. Van de Ven goes charging forward, does Van de Ven. Still going. Now pulls it back to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now inside to De Jong. De Jong now gives it wider to Gakpo. Gakpo inside to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now Gives it back inside to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now down to Van Dijk. Van Dijk back to Van Hecker. And he now gives it to Denzel Dumfries, who goes back to Verbruggen. Verbruggen now. He gives it back. Well, he gives it inside to Van Dijk. Van Dijk slows it down and plays it inside to De Jong. De Jong now gives it across to Denzel Dumfries. Dumfries now gives it inside to Van Hecker. Van Hecker brings it forward and now plays it wider to Dumfries. Dumfries dinks it over the top, looking there for the run of Somerville. Somerville pulls it back towards Marlon, but in the end it's been put behind for a... So Somerville charges through, pulls it back towards Marlon, and it's gone out of play. And Somerville's got back up here. I'm not quite sure. Still not quite sure. As again, now seeing the referee view of Van Dijk's goal. So I'll let you know what the decision is in a moment. There's a goal kick which Suzuki has played out to Kubo. Kubo now through towards the run there of the number 15, Kamada. Not got the pace, but Verbruggen clears it long out of play quickly as it's chased down there by Awida. And it's now with Ito. Ito to Sano. Sano. Now to Kubo. Kubo turns. Goes charging forward to Kubo. Now gives it wider to Nagamura. Nagamura pulls it across. And Awida gets it stolen off him by Van Dijk. It goes back now to Ito. Ito to Nagamura. Nagamura round the corner. I think that's now to Kubo. Kubo now back to Nagamura. Who hits a shot. And it's in for Japan. Japan have equalised. And it's Kito Nagamura with an equalising goal straight into the near post underneath Bart Verbruggen. And there was a great bit of play there between, I think it was Sano and Kubo to get it back to Nagamura. And Nagamura on 57 minutes equalises for Japan. And all of a sudden we have a game on our hands here. There's great play back by Kubo to Nagamura, who takes a touch, takes another touch, and then smashes it through into the bottom corner. Nagamura on 57 minutes makes it the Netherlands 1, Japan 1. What a hit. What a hit from Nagamura. And already in the second half, we have 2 goals. And the Netherlands gets us back underway and plays it back to Verbruggen. Now it goes wide to that far side towards Dumfries. Dumfries now flicks on towards the run of Somerville. But it's cleared out by Taniguchi. And it's now going to be a throw for the Netherlands. It was a nice finish, Paul. That was a very nice finish indeed. A very nice finish indeed. And Denzel Dumfries is going to get ready to take this throw. Who launches it into the box. And it's flipped out there by Taniguchi as far as Gravenberch. And then it comes off of Nagamura and out for a throw on that far side. If you are new here, don't drop me a subscribe on YouTube. Do consider dropping a subscribe on the YouTube channel, Tustin Talks. And also like the YouTube stream as well. And if you're on Twitch and haven't followed me there, do consider dropping me a follow on there as well. The throw's going to have to be retaken because the referee wasn't happy with Taniguchi and Van de Ven. So the ball's going to go back out for the throw to be taken by Denzel Dumfries. Not that he's in a bit of any rush to take this throw or anything. And launches this one into the box. It's flicked out there by Nagamura. It comes now down to Gravenberch. Flicked on by Dumfries towards Van Dijk, and it goes out for a corner off of Ito. And now we're gone here, and it is a Netherlands 1, Japan 1. Goals from Van Dijk and Nagamura. And Reinders goes across to take this corner on the far side to Johnny Reinders of Man City. He's told he can now take this corner. Whips it in. Bounces towards Van Hecken, but comes now down to Kubo. Kubo breaking forward. Gives it further forward now to the on-rushing number 16 for Japan, Watanabe, who gets fouled and is brought down there by Crescencio Somerville. And Crescencio Somerville goes into the notebook. He is the first card of the game. It's given to Crescencio Somerville of West Ham. So we're going to have a Japanese free kick here. Nagamura, the goal scorer, and Kubo are both over this one. Actually, no, it's Kamada and Kubo over this one, sorry. And they're going to get ready to take this from the Japanese right. Just inside the markings of what would be the 18-yard box, is way further out than that. As Kubo dinks it into the box. It's headed down by Van Hecker, only as far as Nagamura. Nagamura. It's now shot blocked there by Gravenberch. So he plays it round the corner to Kamada. Kamada now plays it back out to Nagamura on that far side. Nagamura now plays it down the line towards Maida. Maida pulls it across and evades everybody and comes out to this near side towards Kubo, but he is shoved Somerville, and I assume that's going to be a free kick to the Netherlands. Decent start to the second half. It's a bit better than the first half was. As we look again at this shot from Nagamura, it goes through Van Hecker and also through Daiser Maida and into that bottom left-hand corner. So Bart Verbruggen gets ready to take this free kick on the left-hand side for the Netherlands. He launches this one long up towards Gakpo, but it's headed forward now by Doan, now to play for a throw which Van de Ven takes back to Van Dijk. Van Dijk. You're saying 2-1 to the Netherlands in the end, Ashley. We'll see. It's now with Van Hecker. Van Hecker to Van Dijk. Van Dijk. He now turns and gives it to Van Hecker. Van Hecker plays it forward now to Gravenberch. Now plays it wide to Somerville. Somerville into the box. Hits the shot. And what a shot that was from Somerville. Bends it into the bottom corner. And it's now 2-1 to the Netherlands. Crescencio Somerville curls one past Suzuki. And it's almost like the second half just explosion here. That was a great curling shot. And it again bounces in off the post. But he curls this round Ito past Taniguchi. And in the end past the outstretched arm of Suzuki into the bottom corner. Netherlands 2, Japan 1. We'll see. There's still a long way to go. At the minute, I wouldn't put it past another goal in this one. Suzuki now plays it out to that far side, looking towards Nagamura, but it's headed up and up by Van Hecker, and again forward now by Van Hecker, and out of play for a Japanese throw on that far side. Actually, I guess the 3-2. Yeah, you might do. It's now Van Dijk to De Jong. De Jong. Now gives it across to Van Dijk. Van Dijk. Bit more pace about the Netherlands now. It's now Dumfries. Dumfries back to Van Hecker. Van Hecker. Now gives it to Verbruggen. Verbruggen to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk to Van Hecker. Van Hecker. Looks up. And now plays it inside to Gravenberch. Gravenberch turns it inside towards Marlon, who goes down, nothing given. So Reinders plays it through towards Gakpo. Gakpo charging towards the box. Gakpo now turns, comes inside, hits a shot, and it's blocked by Nagamura. Actually, no, it's blocked by Kubo, but in the end, they've given offside. A late call there for offside against Cody Gakpo. They let him run all the way through, have a shot, and then gave offside. And it's really hard to tell with that angle because it's not straight. But I think it was just offside there. As we have our first change of the evening for Japan. And Daiser Maida has gone off, and I think another Ito has come on. So now we have an Ito at centre back and an Ito further forward. Oh, fun. So number 11, Daiser Maida has come off. Yunwa Ito has come on for Japan, wearing number come on, number 14. And now we have a hydration break. Good place to pause so we can get everything in order here. So that's that change sorted there. Decent first period there of the second half. Goals from Van Dijk, Nagamura, and Somerville. And we'll have to see what happens in the remainder of this half to see whether Japan can get back into this one. But again, it's like I said at half time, well, just as I came back for the second half, they need to move the ball faster and then be a bit more ambitious. And second half, it's proved that if you be a bit more ambitious, then there's always that chance that you're going to be able to take the opportunity of adding a goal in the tally. We'll have to see what occurs from here. But Japan have looked better second half. The Netherlands have definitely looked better second half and taken a bit more of a risk of hitting the shots early. I think Gravenberch has definitely grown a bit more into this one. Somerville has looked dangerous all game, to be fair. Both of the Netherlands goals definitely took a bit of a look off the post. But we'll have to see exactly what occurs. It wouldn't surprise me if the Dutch do make a couple of changes soon, though, to freshen it up a little bit, so that they don't run out of gas later in the half. So we're nearly about ready to restart again after the hydration break. Oh, actually, there's going to be, and this is nice, isn't it? Just after the hydration break, the Dutch are going to make 3 changes. I knew they were going to freshen it up. We've got Memphis Depay is going to be coming on for number 18, Donyell Marlon. So that's going to be number 10, Memphis Depay. Cooper Miners is coming on as well. I think Somerville's going off, so they're going to be putting somebody else on. Quinton Timber is also coming on. Oh, Reinders is going off. So Somerville. So number 20, Cooper Miners. Cooper Miners. And Tijani Reinders has come off for Quinton Timber. 26. Quinton Timber. Right. So now all of the admin stuff is done. Gosh, I love subs. Taniguchi gives it now to Ito. Ito now gives it forward towards, well, it was supposed to be towards Nagamura, but I think he's gone down. So Cooper Miners gives it inside to Memphis. It's now won back there by Sano, and Sano gives it out to Ritsu Doan. Doan now he gives it back to Watanabe. Watanabe slows it down, as we still have Kubo down. Actually, it was Kubo was the man that went down. He is still down after being blocked off by Denzel Dumfries. And he's just got up now. It looks like he's got a bit of a dead leg there. Let's take Fuso Kubo. He's going to have to go off the field. Now he leaves the field. So, do hydration breaks pad on this time, or are they just part of the match now? You tend to get 3 minutes added on at the end anyway, so they just play it like that. Kubo is still trying to move that leg. And so now it's with Watanabe. Watanabe. Now it gives it to Doan. Doan dinks it over the top, looking there for the run of a Weeder. But now it's back with Gravenberch. Gravenberch. Now down this near side to Van der Ven. Van der Ven to De Jong. De Jong dinks it over the top, looking here for the run of Gakpo. Gakpo manages to take the ball down, charging towards the box. Gakpo. Now here's a shot down low to the near post, and it's saved by Suzuki. Good save there from Zion Suzuki. As the ball was dinked over towards Gakpo, he went charging into the box, past Ritsu Doan, and then tried to curl that into the near post. There's a great save down low by Suzuki. It's going to be out. The corner's going to be taken by Memphis Depay, who whips it in towards the back post. It's headed across by Van Hecke calmly into the hands of Suzuki. And Suzuki now is going to get ready to bowl this one out. They still haven't got Kubo back on the field. And it's now with Taniguchi. Taniguchi now get it forward to Kamada. Kamada. Kamada now looks up and plays it across to Taniguchi. Back to Kamada. Gives it widened out to Nagamura. Nagamura to Ito. Ito across to Taniguchi. Taniguchi. Down this near side to Doan. Doan. Further around the corner now to Watanabe. Back to Doan. Doan. Still goes round Van der Ven. Now plays it around the corner towards Watanabe. Watanabe. And it goes behind for a corner off of Vicky Van der Ven. Good run there from Watanabe. From centre back, interchanging well with Ritsu Doan. And in the end, he couldn't quite get the ball across before Mickey Van der Ven shoves it behind. And Wanu Ito gets ready, but they're going to make a couple of changes. First are Japan. So we're going to see Ritsu Doan leave. And I think they're also going to see number 16, Watanabe, leave. So they're going to make 3 changes by the looks of it. Also, Kubo cannot continue. So he's also going off. So that's Watanabe, Doan. and Kubo. I've got no idea who'd have just chucked on here, but I'll get to that in a moment. As Ito whips the corner in, and it's gone all the way through, and then flipped over the top by, I think that was Nagamura. So Yukinari Sugawara, I believe he's come on for Ritsu Doan down the right hand side. Yukinari Sugawara. And it's now wider to Depay. No, Gakpo, sorry. Gakpo. Curls ball into the box towards Depay. It's flipped on towards Cooper Miners and Suzuki claims. Right. Sugawara. Where's number 2? Right. As Suzuki clears long. Upfield. Towards Ueda. Van Hecken wins it back. It's now with Van Dijk. That was Sano. Sano can't quite get there, and it's now with Nagamura. Nagamura to Ito. Ito now to Kamada. Kamada still getting its hold off. It's now across to Sano. Sano down this near side to Ito. Wanu Ito now to number 22 for Japan. Announced that far side now with Kamada to Hiroki Ito. And it's now with Kamada. Kamada now inside to Wanu Ito. Now to Sugawara. Sugawara. It's now to Tomiyasu. Now to Ito. Ito whips the ball in. And it's going to go all the way through and out to that far side to Nagamura, who plays it off of Denzel Dumfries and gets the throw. Right, so that centre back is 22, Takehiro Tomiyasu. And it's now with Wanu Ito to Sano. Sano to Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu now to Sugawara. Sugawara whips the ball into the box. It's flicked up in the air by number 19 and goes all the way through to Nagamura. Nagamura. It's whipped in by Hiroki Ito towards the back post towards Wanu Ito. And Van de Ven heads out of play for a throw. And the number 19, who is replaced. Right. Is Koki 19, Koki Ogawa. Right. I think I've sorted it. Right, so it's now with Suzuki. Suzuki now across to that far side to Ito. Ito now down the line further to Nagamura. Back to Ito. Ito now across to Tamagachi. Now to Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu now inside towards Sano. Sano tries to go through the middle. Can't quite get through Quinton Timber. And it's now gone all the way back to Verbruggen. Verbruggen clears long. Upfield. Towards the towards Cooper Mines. But it's now with, I think that was Ito who had, no, it was Kamada who smashed that out for throw and gets it back off the throw from Ito. And Kamada now to Taniguchi. Taniguchi to Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu. Now down the line to Sugawara. Sugawara. Inside towards Yanu Ito. Ito pulls it back towards Sugawara, and it was flicked into the hands of Verbruggen. And now here comes De Jong the other way. De Jong towards Depay. And it's now gone up through towards the number 24. Sano, who gives it back to Suzuki, and Suzuki out now to Ito, and Ito to Nagamura. Nagamura cuts inside. And now gives it back to Kamada. Kamada. Now gives it inside to Nagamura. To Kamada. Kamada across to Taniguchi. Taniguchi. Now gives it wide to Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu across to Sugawara. Sugawara now goes back inside to Tomiyasu. Gives it inside towards Ueda. And it's just flicked through to Bart Verbruggen. And now we get review of that chance for Sugawara. Because that's what we need. And it's gone out of play now for a throw to Japan. With 10 minutes to go plus out of time here. If you are new here and have not subscribed to the YouTube channel, do consider subscribing to the YouTube channel, as Ryan Gravenberg is coming off to be replaced by number 5, Nathan Ake. And if you are new here on Twitch, don't forget to drop me a follow. And on YouTube also, don't forget to drop a like on the YouTube video and share it out with more people as well. Oh, right. 5, Nathan. Okay. Right. It's now with Ito. Ito. Now gives it further across to Nagamura. Nagamura. Turns it inside to Taniguchi. Taniguchi. Plays it inside further to Kamada. It's now gone wider to Ito. Hiroki Ito. Now gives it back inside to Taniguchi. Thank you, Russ. I appreciate that. It's now with Tomiyasu to Sugawara. Sugawara around the corner towards Ito. And it's now inserted by De Jong and played forward, but it's inserted again by Taniguchi. Taniguchi now plays it down to Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu now further forward to Sano. Sano wide to Sugawara. Sugawara now plays it back inside to Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu to Kamada. Kamada now plays it across. That's actually Sano who's playing this across to Ito. Ito gets it back off Ake. It wasn't very decisive. That one was Nathan Ake. And in the end, Japan get a throw as it deflects off of Nathan Ake. Good to see you in here, Russ. And it's now with Sugawara who gives it back to Tomiyasu. He then whips it in and flipped out by Van Dijk. And in the end, it's going to be a yellow card here for, I think that was Tomiyasu. Or maybe it was from Memphis Depay for the foul on Taniguchi. Yes, for Depay for foul on Taniguchi. Okay. And Japan have made another change. And I have totally lost who's gone off there. Give me a second. It's now with Depay. Depay cuts inside towards De Jong. And it's gone down for, he's gone down. It's going to be a free kick for the Netherlands. So that one was the striker for Japan, number 18, Ice Ueda, who's gone off. And on comes Shiogai. Kento Shiogai. That's totally not done right. And Brian Brobby has come on for Cody Gakpo. Right. So that's going to be a reorganization. Brobby will go through the middle and Depay will go wide. Right. So So I just need numbers here. Brian Brobby, 19. Is now with Brobby on that far side. He just played it straight into the hands of Suzuki. Shio guy is 26. Oh, Jesus. Okay. I absolutely love doing substitutions. Okay, so Wanu Ito to Sugawara. Sugawara. Now plays it inside to Sano. Sano. Gives it back across now to Taniguchi and Taniguchi to Kamada. Kamada. It's now in by Hiroki Ito. And goes back to Kamada. Kamada. Battling away. It's now won there by Nagamura. Nagamura pulls it across towards Shiego. Comes all the way through to Ito. Comes back across again. Headed out by Van Dijk. Only as far as number 22. Tomiyasu. And it's now gone back to Sano. Sano. Now pushes it forward to Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu goes down. Nothing. Oh, actually, it's going to be a free kick there for a foul on Tomiyasu. 4 minutes to go plus added time here, and it's still the Netherlands 2, Japan 1. And number 24, Sano gets ready to put this into the box for Japan. Ball goes into the box, and it's flicked out there by Robbie, and it comes now to Nagamura. Nagamura across that far side now for Shugai. It's now whipped into the box and flipped from the other by Van de Ven. Back now to Ito. Ito to Tomiyasu. Back to Wanu Ito. Ito down the near side. Comes back inside and gives it now to Kamada. And it goes out for a corner to Japan off of Mickey Van de Ven. Good run there by Ito and good play into Kamada. Van de Ven was quickly on the scene to see that behind for a corner, which Wanu Ito is going to take. And whips this in. And it's headed out there by Dion, only as far as Sugawara. And Sugawara now inside to Sano. Sano across to that far side now to Nagamura, the Japanese goal scorer. And he now plays it across to his near side to Sugawara. Sugawara now down the line towards Wanu Ito into the box. Can't quite get it past Quinton Timber. Actually, that was Denzel Dumfries. And it's gone out for another corner for Japan, which Wanu Ito is going to take. Wanu Ito on this near side is ready to take this corner and whips it in. Headed down there by. Oh, it's got in. Wow, Japan have equalised. I need to see that again. Japan have equalised. It's 2-2. But I want to see that again. That's the second time I've been totally confused by a goal. The corner comes in and it's headed down. Oh, Verbruggen pushes this one up. So it's headed down by number 19. Deflects. That's like a deflection off a Dutch defender as well. Yes, that's like a huge deflection off of, I think it was Cooper Miners. No, I wasn't expecting even. No, actually, it can't. It'll just finish as a draw. They'll get a point. Yeah, it's 2-2, Celine. So it's 2-2. I'm not exactly sure who gets credited with that goal. Right. So Flash Scorer giving that to Daichi Kamada. Okay, it was Daichi Kamada that scored. I totally was not expecting that. But it's 2-2. Not that I can actually... Right, Kamada. 2-2. Okay. There's going to be 6 minutes of added time. So can anybody get a winner here? Oh, right. Okay. Suddenly we found the goals in the second half. There's going to be a yellow card there for Mickey van der Ven. And a free kick for Japan. Whew. And Tomiyasu is going to play this down to Wanu Ito. Ito now pulls it back to Tomiyasu, and Tomiyasu across now to Hiroki Ito, who gives it back to Nagamura. Nagamura plays it down the line, and it's now gone straight to Van Hecker, and Van Hecker to Verbruggen. Verbruggen, who clears long. Inside now towards Sugawara. Sugawara to Wanu Ito. It's gone back up towards Memphis. There's now one there by Sano. Sano in the middle. Now plays it back to Kamada. Kamada, who goes all the way back to Suzuki. Suzuki. Now plays it across to Nagamura. Nagamura to Ito. And Ito now, I believe, has played it to Tomiyasu. And Tomiyasu to Kamada. Kamada now dinks it over the top. Looking there for the run of Ito. Ito being gone straight to the hands of Bart Verbruggen. And Verbruggen now gets ready and plays this one out to De Jong. De Jong now plays it through the gap, looking towards Depay. Depay wider now to Timber. Timber. And now it's gone to Dumfries, and Dumfries to Van Hecker. Van Hecker to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now to Ake. Ake now gives it back inside to Van Dijk, and Van Dijk to De Jong. De Jong looks up. Now plays it wider to Timber. No, to Dumfries, sorry, Dumfries. Now back inside to De Jong. De Jong. Now, it's still got his De Jong inside the Japanese half. It's still got it and turns to Depay, to De Jong, now to Dumfries. Denzel Dumfries whips the ball into the box. It comes down and flicks over the top there by Cooper Miners. And that's going to be a goal kick for Japan. We're going to get referee's view of Kamada. The Agawara ran away celebrating that. I'm going to check at the end that that's not given to Agawara. But it's now with Cooper Miners. Cooper Miners. Now played to Ake. Ake. Now inside to De Jong. De Jong. Now pushes that across to Denzel Dumfries. Dumfries. Cuts inside. Going on the outside. Trying to go around Nagamura. Whips the ball into the box. We go straight to the arms of Suzuki. 2 minutes to go here. Suzuki clears this one long over the top. And straight out of play for a throw to the Netherlands. Van Hecker now to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now down the line to Ake. Ake now plays it forward over the top, looking towards the pie, but it's headed out by Tomiyasu. Only as far now as Sugawara, and Sugawara clears, and Van Dijk's now going to claim. Van Dijk. Now plays this one across to Van Hecker. Van Hecker now plays it inside to De Jong. De Jong. Now to Van Dijk. And Van Dijk across to Ake. Ake now down to Van der Ven. Van der Ven to Ake. And Ake across to, I believe that's Quinton Timber. No, that's Van Dijk. Van Dijk to Van Hecke to Van Dijk, and Van Dijk now across to Ake. Ake now cuts inside and gives it to Van Dijk. Van Dijk now dinks it over top, looking towards Dumfries. Dumfries now right round the corner towards Memphis Depay, comes back to Ito and then Nagamura, and Nagamura clears only as far as De Jong. De Jong goes back to Verbruggen. Verbruggen now to Van Dijk. Van Dijk to De Jong, who dinks it over top, looking towards Brody, but it's headed away by Ito. Sada then dinks it over the top. Van Hecke clears up towards Memphis. Memphis comes into the box, whips it in, and it bounces across the box and out towards the near side to Van de Ven. Van de Ven now plays it inside the box to Depay, and it's now won back there by Sane. Sane to Wanu Ito. Ito now plays it back to Sugawara. Sugawara to Tomiyasu. Tomiyasu. He goes across to Hiroki Ito. Hiroki Ito. Japan are just trying to run the clock down now, I believe. And Ito inside to Kamada. And Kamada now plays it across to Taniguchi. And that's a point apiece. It finishes 2-2 in the end between the Netherlands and Japan. Here in Dallas, there will be no winner. All the goals came in the second half. And to be fair, that was a more exciting second half than the first half. They're still giving the goal to Daichi Kamada. I still think the goal should have gone to Ogawara, because I'm sure the number 19 headed that one in, but they're giving it to Daichi Kamada, so who am I to argue? Goals from Van Dijk, Nagamura, Somerville, and then allegedly Daichi Kamada. And it's ended the Netherlands 2, Japan 2. I shall be back on Tuesday for France versus Senegal. See how France do in their first game in the World Cup. But until then, thank you guys for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel and follow on Twitch if you haven't already. But until Tuesday here on Turton Talks, I bid you a very good evening and goodbye for now.